Fluent and Chill. I'm Anthony K. I'm here as always with Chill Town Hoops. Jermaine, how you doing, man?
Hey, man, we got some fireworks today.
I like to keep it light. People know I say stuff sometimes just to make them laugh or just to, stick it to them a little bit, as they say. But sometimes, as anyone who knows who's been watching me for years, not just months, you know that I get very serious sometimes. And heck, I did a whole year on social awareness and inclusion. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the NFL with Brian Flores, with my friend Hugh Jackson and others, and what's been going on over the years, things we like, things we don't like, things that need to change.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about the NBA, how that relates to the same kind of the coaching, I guess, concerns of the NFL, something that Chauncey Billups have brought up. We're going to talk about some injuries in the NBA and how it's going to affect people's legacies and their long-term effects. But I do want to go back to that first NFL story because that, I think, is the most pressing story. I'm going to start with today because today, or the last couple of days, Brian Flores, who I think we both agreed did a good job in Miami.
2 winning seasons.
And then gets fired. And he's from the Bill Belichick tree. And we talk about the coaching trees and, hey, is there a better... Now, I know that his coaching tree hasn't been successful necessarily as head coaches.
No.
But this one was. And if you're going to get it from anywhere, I wouldn't mind. If I'm going to take a chance on a young coach, it's going to be from Bill Belichick's tree, or maybe Andy Reid's tree. There's certain ones where I get it, why they give him a shot. So let's start there. Brian Flores, 2 winning seasons. He gets fired. Are black head coaches held to a different standard than white head coaches?
Well, that's first part of that question is yes. And number 2, he did it with the players that he had. Like, he didn't want Tua. So we'll start the conversation with that. Herbert was his guy. He didn't want Tua. Herbert was his guy. He had a beat up offensive line, and he still managed to win 9 games last year in a really rugged AFC.
Yeah, they went on, what it was, a 7-game winning streak after starting 1-7?
In fact, they won 8 of their next 9 games. And despite who it was against, they still did that, right? So when we're talking about a guy in Brian Flores, there's a reason why there was shockwaves when he got canned. And now it's starting to make sense of why he got canned. It wasn't because of his performance. In fact, it was because he didn't fall in line. So when I hear him saying that they wanted to pay him, ownership stepped to him with $100,000 offer for each loss. Well, there's no way that I can do that, Tone. And the reason why I can't do that is because you guys are not going to be able to trust me if I were to do something like that. My integrity goes out the window. I'm losing games to get paid. That's the same thing as basically betting on games. I'm losing intentionally to get paid. And then my integrity goes out the window. And Brian Flores doesn't seem like he's that guy at all. And what he's doing now, he isn't standing up for himself. He isn't standing up for black head coaches. He's standing up for women. He's standing up for people with disabilities. He's standing up for people who are disenfranchised. He's standing up for people who are getting the runaround, who are just as much, if not more qualified than the next person and are being passed on. And I think that it's very noble what he's doing. And I think he's a crusader. I will tell you this, though, Tone. I don't think he'll ever coach in the NFL again.
No. And that's why I brought up Hugh Jackson as well, because let me give you some more kind of insight. One, it's not the first time a coach has been offered money to lose games for better draft picks. Now, they'll spin it in a way as, hey, collectively, this is what we think, right? But don't worry, you're our guy, right? I have inside info on this. Don't worry, you're our guy. I've seen text messages and emails and all that stuff. Sure. This isn't theory. This is fact.
You're not making this up.
Yeah. Just, you're our guy. Here's a contract extension. Don't worry about the losing, because that's going to give us better draft picks. And we're going to help kind of put those ingredients. Everyone always uses this recipe analogy, so I'll use it too. We're going to give you the ingredients you need to make the best meal possible, right? Like Brian Flores, for an example. And this has always been a struggle, I think, with head coaches and GMs and ownership. They use the term, let's collaborate on a roster, but it's not. the GM and owner say, here's our guys. Your job is to coach them. But let's be honest. If I said, hey Jay, I want you to make me dinner. I know you're vegan, but here's the ingredients I want you to cook with. Make me something good. And you're like, I don't know what to do with these with this stuff. It's meat. It's Greek food right here. Make me a Greek dish. You'd be like, I don't know what to do with that. As good as a cook as I may be, I don't know what to do.
And I'm gonna pay you an extra input. And I'm gonna pay you, Jay. I'm gonna pay you an extra $1,000 to eat it.
And don't even worry about it. Yeah, don't even worry about it. Just you make it and I'll pay you extra if you. That's not okay.
No,
right? Like it's not okay. It doesn't work. So there's so much to uncover here. So I want to take it in kind of chunks because literally there's 50 moving pieces and we can go all over the place. So I'm going to try to stay focused. So Brian Flores, let's kind of stick to him because I was already going to go off on a tangent on something else. So Brian Flores is one of, at the time, what was there, 3 or 4 black head coaches last year?
Tomlin.
Texans, David Culley.
Right. Okay.
So there's 3. 2 of them get fired. And let's be honest, one in Flores had a winning record. Cully is it Cuddy or Cully? I think it's Cully. Cully in Houston. I don't care if you're Lombardi. That team wasn't going to win.
He's not winning with
that team. Wasn't going to win.
He's not winning with that group.
And let me give you some insight on that one too.
Third string.
Last season, there were 7 head coaching openings. 7. The first 6 went to a black head coach. And I'm telling you this with fact. The Houston Texans were pressured because the GM, if you remember, the GM I think came over from the Patriots. He had who he wanted. He had it was not Cully, but he was pressured to hire a black head coach because the NFL knew if we hire 7 openings and not 1 black head coach,
that's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem. So they threw him a bone. Said, "Oh, let's hire one." And what did they do right after? Oh, year's done. Fired. Come on. Did he do a bad job? Yeah. His starting quarterback was set to be Tyrod Taylor, who got hurt.
Yeah.
But even if he played every game, and they weren't. I don't want to say they weren't horrible. They were horrible. But they were competitive. They tried. Right. Like there was still that effort there. It wasn't like he lost the locker room, which we hear.
Right.
So why'd he get fired? We knew he was going to lose. Yeah. So why would you hire him to fire? You think you could turn around? I don't care. Could Bill Belichick go to Houston last year with that roster, with those quarterbacks, with that defense, and have a winning season?
I don't think so.
No, don't lie. Don't lie. No. Don't say you don't think so. You know so. He couldn't. No. I'm sorry. I'm going to call you out and say, no, he couldn't.
I don't think
would they fire him after 1 year?
No, they would not have fired him after 1 year.
No, they wouldn't. They say, hey, we get it. We got to build up the roster, use our draft picks, all this kind of stuff.
Well, Tone, you got to remember what we're talking about here. We're talking about saving face. I have to do this just to say that I did it. And now that covers my tracks. And once I've done it, anything that happens after that, that could just go out the window. Prime example. I'm thinking about his name, Tone, and his name escapes me. He gets the job the 1 year in Arizona, and they take Josh Rosen, who they know isn't the guy, and that completely goes the other way. Rewind the clock back to, I think it was 1994, 1990, and the Green Bay Packers, the 1 black head coach they have, he's fired after 1 year. So these coaches are being put in positions where they're set up to fail. Now, what I can appreciate the most, Tone, is I can appreciate Byron Leftwich making it clear to Jacksonville, you want me, that general manager has to go. Because I'm not just going to walk myself into a situation that I know I'm going to fail at. No, these coaches are, especially people who look like me, are getting smarter about the situations.
If you're lucky enough to get a shot, you're getting 1 shot.
Right.
And just in the 100+ year history of the NFL.
Yep.
19, maybe 20 black head coaches in 100 years. In 100 years. And how many of those have had a second chance to be a head coach?
That's nuts, man.
The list is like 3 or 4. It's really short. It's really short, the list. And I hate to use this term, right? But let's be the I don't know what other term to use, so I'm sorry. Like the leash that certain coaches are on is a lot shorter than others.
Of course,
right?
It is.
And it's like, oh no, we get it. You had a bad season. No, we got to retool. We need to. No, he's our guy. It's not the same for everybody. So when you look at Brian Flores, I think back to Lovie Smith in Chicago, 10-6, fired. Lovie Smith again in Tampa Bay, winning season, fired. The Detroit Lions, Jim Caldwell. Was there a better coach in Detroit in their history? And fired. They were actually headed in the right direction. They might have been a respectable franchise for a minute there. Fired.
Don't leave out that Lovie Smith. He went to the bowl game the year before that too.
Trust me, I know. Yeah. I know.
Right, in the bowl game the year before that.
Right, so. You go to the Super Bowl, you lose a close one in a game where, let's be honest, if you look at those teams, you had Peyton Manning and Tony Dungy on one side against Rex Grossman and Lovie. Now I get it; it was about defense for the Bears. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you go to the bowl game, you come back 10-6, which normally after you lose in the bowl game, right? There's a letdown. Remember,
absolutely,
you have that hangover. No, they still went 10-6, and you get fired. I don't know. It set the franchise back. Like we're still recovering from that. Right. Be honest. So I'm gonna bring this up. So Brian Flores is gone. I want to get to the lawsuit. But before I do that, I want to say this. Here's the teams that were in need of a head coach or who fired their head coach. The Raiders, who obviously John Gruden got fired and then their interim, right? So the Raiders, the Jags, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Bears, Dolphins, Giants, Texans, Saints. So those are the 9 openings.
9. The
Raiders found their guy, Josh McDaniels. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm just saying so far 4 have been hired and Harbaugh has been rumored to be hired. So out of the 9, 5
Harbaugh's out. Harbaugh's out. Harbaugh said he's going back to Michigan. So
all right. Well, the Harbaugh's out. So fine. Let me stick to what's actually has happened. 9 openings, 4 hires. Not a black coach in sight.
Nope.
Josh McDaniels. And I'm not knocking any of these coaches. I'm not. But Josh McDaniels, Nathaniel Hackett, Matt Eberflus, and Brian DeBoll.
Right. Now I can appreciate, Tone, that 70% of the league looks like me. All right. I can appreciate that. Now, what you want to do is you want to put guys in positions where they can relate to guys that look like them because it gets me to play harder. It helps me focus more. I'm getting more knowledge because this guy is more relatable, right? Because he looks like me and he understands what's going on with me. All right.
Here's a tough. Can I pause you there because there's a really there's a tough conversation when you say that, and so I'm not necessarily playing devil's advocate here, but of the 32 teams, there's 31 white billionaire owners.
I was going to get to that,
and they want coaches and general managers who look like them,
of course,
who they can relate to.
Which is why we have this problem. Is why we have this problem right now. For that reason, right there, because I was absolutely.
Oh, is that where you go? Okay, I'll let you go. My apologies.
I was absolutely getting to that because for every, like I said, they want people who. If I have somebody that looks like me, it's more relatable. Absolutely. So, with that being said, for every Red Auerbach, for every Greg Popovich, for every Rick Pitino, innovators. Right, because a lot of people forget. Greg Popovich is the first guy to hire a woman in the NBA to coach. Rick Pitino, not only did he hire a woman, he had a black woman, first Division I black assistant coach who was a woman. Right, Red Auerbach hired Bill Russell. So for every Red Auerbach, for every Rick Pitino, for every one innovator, there's 10 higher ups that are making it clear that I don't want you put the word in the blank. Running my organization. And not only has it been like that for the last umpteen years, it's going to continue to be like that because of the people who are signing the checks, because of the higher ups, because that's all they see. No matter however qualified I am, no matter what I do, in the end, this is what they see. And this is what they're going to continue to see. And until we can not have a conversation about it, Tom, because we've been having conversations.
No, we've had the conversations. In fact, NFL, if I may, and you guys can go check this out. If you look up the NFL equality and inclusion, there's a report that's done by a third party. Every single year, there's a report, and you can go find it online. You can Google it and look at the whole thing because I've done it and I've taken excerpts out of it. And there are charts and lists of them saying, yep, this is a problem. Here's what we need. Here's what helps. We know that this is better. We know that we need to do this. every single year. Not only do they have the conversations, they have reports. So I think we're past the conversation stage. And this is why I'm applauding Brian Flores. Because one thing that many people maybe don't know or forgot, how did black players get into the NFL? They had to file a lawsuit. It's literally had to be mandated by, like, there needed to be a law, like legal verbiage written, right? Action taken to allow black players just to play in the NFL. That wasn't that long ago.
Right.
Like, we think like it was a million years ago. It wasn't that long ago.
Right.
So now we've had this conversation about coaches. We've had this conversation about coaches. We've had this conversation about coaches. The goalposts, like I said, I brought up Hugh Jackson because he and I did the coach in AK. He was the coach, I'm AK. And we did a full year. And every episode we talked about social awareness and inclusion. And this came up obviously quite a bit. And we talked about the goalposts. So if you're a black coach, in almost every instance, the vast majority are ex-players. So to be a coach in the NFL as a black man, you have to be a player. Then as a player, you have to go, they say you have to go through these levels. You have to pay your dues. You need to be, a position coach, a special teams coach, a defensive coach, offensive coach, whatever it is, a QB coach, an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, but not just an offensive and defensive coordinator. You have to be a successful offensive and defensive coordinator and win and get Super Bowls. And then, and only then, maybe you'll become a head coach.
Maybe, Tone.
Maybe. But once you've become a head coach, if you don't do exactly what we expect, which is to go 16-0 and win a Super Bowl, well, now, and this is, I'll give you the example of Hugh. So Hugh Jackson goes to the Raiders, right? He's worked his way up. He's done everything. Like, if you look at his resume, people want to just look at Cleveland, and we'll get to Cleveland in a minute. But if you look at his resume, he did everything to become that OC for the Raiders. And I mean, he took that offense from like 20 something to 6th, right? Darren McFadden was at his best. If you remember that running back, Darren McFadden, at his best. He becomes the head coach of the Raiders under Al Davis. It's Al Davis's last year. He goes 8-8. Keep in mind, 8-8, lost his starting QB, lost half of his offensive line, lost a bunch of defensive players, still has not a losing season. Because that's the big thing, right? How many seasons do you go without having? Mark Davis kind of takes over for dad, says, hey, we want a fresh start. And instead of keeping the guy who's already there, who's progressed, right? He gets fired. Now, when a head coach gets fired, Dan Quinn, among others, I think of Dan Quinn because what do they typically do the next year?
They're probably a defensive coordinator on another
DC
team.
or offensive coordinator, right?
Coordinator on another team, yeah.
No one hires you.
Nobody.
He has to go back to being, I think Marvin Lewis says, hey, come be who I don't even remember, like a special. It wasn't even that. It was I think it was DB, something to do with the defense. He's an offensive mind. And Marvin Lewis is like, hey, this is all I have. Go, let me help you. And then he has to work his way back up again. The reason why I bring that up is, so that's the steps you have to take.
Right.
Eric Bieniemy, pretty good offensive coordinator.
One of the best in the game.
4 straight AFC championship games, a Super Bowl win, 2 Super Bowl appearances. My man can't get a job. But no offense, like I'm sorry, people are gonna not like what I'm about to say. But you're a white coach? Oh, cool. You have the 27th ranked offense as an offensive coordinator. No problem, Matt LaFleur. Why don't you come be the head coach of the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers? What? But you weren't even in the top half.
Yeah.
Your offense wasn't even in the top half of the league. And okay. Then they say, well, you have to call offensive plays. And then what do? They hire a white coach who's never called an offensive play.
Yeah.
So when you're being told, hey, you have to do all these steps, I'm okay. Everyone's okay with that. As long as everybody has to take those steps. It can't be, Jermaine, you want to be on this podcast? No problem. Here's what you got to do. You got to start in the mail room. And then from the mail room, you got to do, A, B, C, D, E, F, G jobs. And then, okay, we'll put you on camera. All right, Tone. Oh, Tone. Hey, high five, brother. Here you go. You're on camera.
Well, cool. Take it a step.
I didn't have to go to the mail room. That's good. I don't like the mail room.
Take it a step further than that, Tone. if you saw my resume as a coach, and for 4 seasons, I'm in a big time league, by the way. I'm in, I don't know, let's say I'm in the Big Ten. And in the Big Ten, my resume as a coach, the last half of the season, I go 5-6, 6-6, 4-7, 5-6. Am I getting a sniff as a head coach in the NBA, in the NFL?
No.
Arizona didn't think so.
Arizona
didn't think so at all. In fact, not only did Arizona not think so, they said, this is our guy right here. I am certain if that's my coaching resume, if I'm in the ACC, if I'm at North Carolina, and I'm the head coach in North Carolina in the last 4 years of my career, the last 4 years of my tenure at North Carolina, I went 4-6 on the second half of the season, 5-8, 4-7, and 5-6. And I am not going to the top of the list of hot candidates for an NFL job. And I am 100% certain that the Green Bay Packers or the Arizona Cardinals are going to be interested in hiring me. Absolutely not. But when I think about what Brian Flores is doing, he's standing up, like I said, Tone, for the disenfranchised people. The Rooney Rule, and I don't know if we're going to get to this, but
we are. It's a good segue. Go ahead.
When we talk about the Rooney Rule, so let me make sure I'm understanding this, Tone. I don't have to hire you. All you're saying is that I have to talk to you. That's all I have to do. I don't have a problem doing that because you're not the girl that I want to go with anyway. I just got to go on a date with you. You ain't really the girl.
I don't. Let me just correct that. I don't even have to go on a date with you. It's like this. It's like, okay, listen, my mom wants me to marry a Greek girl, right? But I want to marry somebody else.
Right.
And she says, well, listen, you need to talk to her at least on the phone. Okay. I got my date already set up with whoever I'm going to date who's not Greek, but I'll be like, all right, hey, Maria.
How you doing?
Conversation. How you doing? All right. All right. No, yeah. That's nice resume. No, that's very impressive. All right. I'll get back to you. Click. All right. Are you ready to go? And I'm out the door with my date who's not, you know what I mean? And
we're done. Absolutely.
We're done. In fact, I don't know if listen, maybe Bill Belichick did this on purpose. I don't know. I never know with Bill.
No,
Belichick.
He didn't. No, I don't think he did, Tony.
I don't know because it doesn't affect him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's, hey, let me screw up the rest of the league to help my team out. Like, but Bill sends out a text message accidentally to Brian Flores. Got to say accidentally, instead of Brian DeBull, congratulating him on the Giants job, on the New York Giants job. But here's the problem: Flores didn't get the job; it was DeBull, first of all, and also Flores still hasn't had his interview with the Giants. So they're hiring guys and committing to a coach to say, "Oh, wait, this is why I hate the Rooney Rule." Well, shoot, let me have this conversation because I need to do it. They've already decided, and I use this example because it's happening in workplaces. This is just happening in the NFL. We have a position opening at our corporate office. There's an internal candidate who we all like. They're doing a great job. We're going to hire that. We're going to hire Bob or Betty, right? But we have to put it out there. Okay, here we put it out there. Here, everybody sends in their resumes. We look them over. Oh, you know what? No one great. All right, Bob, Betty, you got the job. Well,
take it a step further than that, Tone. You actually have to, with the Rooney Rule, you actually have to come see me. And when I come into your office and I sit down for the interview, I gotta blow your doors off. And the reason why is because you already have your mind made up with who it is that you want. Now, we're talking about a league which, like we just talked about with the Rooney Rule, that's 70% of the people who are on the field look like me. And as of today, there's only one coach that looks like me that's in that league. And when you look at the NBA, which is a little bit more inclusive, right? We got 29 teams in the NBA. 30 teams in the NBA. We're up to 30 teams.
I know you don't want to count Sacramento, but they're a team, all right?
Sacramento is thinking about Oklahoma City. Yeah, I was thinking
they should go back to Seattle. Yes, but yes,
they got that team stolen, and that's a whole nother subject that I'm very upset about. But even still, you got 30 teams in the NBA. 14 coaches look like me. That's almost half the league. However, Tone, it's only one guy in the entire league of 30 teams that's signing the checks that looks like me. So there is some forward progress in the NBA. Yeah. And the reason why is because I think basketball is looked at a little bit different. Basketball is a city game. basketball is an inner city game, even though it did start in Canada. But
No,
basketball
started in Massachusetts, Canadian, but we were going back a little bit. But
it started with a Canadian. Let me rephrase that. It didn't start in Canada. It started with a Canadian. But with that being said, it's a city game. If you think about football started. It's a white man sport, and it was almost, even though it's a gladiator sport, it was almost a class thing where guys showed up in suits and hats, and the owners were who they were. And we're talking about in the 20s where Black people were not included in this at all, and there wasn't side show. When I say side shows, Tone, it wasn't like with basketball where you could go to Harlem and there were guys playing. Right. In football, it was just these guys playing, and that's it. So we didn't know that there were guys in New York City. We didn't know that there were guys in North Carolina or Alabama who ran a 4.2 or 4.5 40. We didn't know that because all we knew were these guys here. I say that to say that football has always been this kind of atmosphere. And because it's always been this kind of atmosphere, it hasn't been changed because of the higher ups. Now,
I'm gonna say there's one other reason it hasn't changed.
And like you just mentioned, Tone, we've had conversations about this. One thing that's been made clear, we're not going to shut up about this. So let's make 100% clear. We are not going to be quiet about this. This is something that's going to continue to go on. I hope that we see something different from Brian Flores, but I'll be honest with you, Tone, the question that I need answered, the $1 million question, what are you going to do about it? What is actually going to happen here?
So I'm going to say, you mentioned it's always kind of been this way, but the other problem is it's become America's game, right? Baseball was the pastime, but they did a survey recently where it was like 44% said baseball and 43% said football.
Yeah.
Like it's taken over. And if you look at the money, the viewership, well, people are paying. They're going to watch the games in droves. So why change? Why change if I'm making money? And that's going to be that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest problem. Mm-hmm. And that's why nothing's changing again. And it's because no one's pushing hard enough. Right. Like I think back to, and I hate to keep bringing him up, but I think back to Hugh and Hugh Jackson. I every single week talked about him. People said, yeah, but you sucked in Cleveland. Well, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he sucked in Cleveland. It doesn't matter if the team lost, if he won in 31. That's all you want to focus on because that makes you sleep better at night, especially Cleveland fans. Like he was the problem, but he wasn't the problem.
He's one of the best offensive coordinators with the Raiders. He goes to Cleveland and
Cincinnati. He's the offensive coach of the year.
Right.
Which is why Cleveland wanted him.
And with all of this stuff being said, Tone, everything that you're telling us, there should be some credibility with this guy. Is that correct? There should be
100%.
There should be some credibility with him. Meanwhile, he's telling us this guy Baker Mayfield isn't it. He's telling us that. The whole time he's telling us this guy isn't it. We're not listening to him. Not only are we not listening to him, matter of fact, you're fired. You are the problem. When in reality, he's had a history.
He was right.
And the reason why he was right is because he's got a history of knowing players. I know that this guy.
Can I interrupt you to tell you something else? I got to tell you something else. They wanted to draft the year before that or year after, I guess the year before, when they drafted Myles Garrett, right? Freak of nature, defensive player, game changer. They wanted Mitch Trubisky. He almost had to. He had to yell and scream and claw and fight and be like, "You are not. I'm not. That's not the guy." And again, he'll tell you, no disrespect to Mitch, but as we know, he's not a starting quarterback in this league. We're not wasting a first overall or whatever it was pick. No, you're taking Myles Garrett. Like, don't be crazy. You're taking Myles Garrett.
Oh my God.
Right. Like that's the kind of franchise that this was. And, I just want to go, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but when he gets hired, right, for all those people that want to say he sucks, do some research, be fluent, go look at the roster that he agreed to coach. Mm-hmm. Look at the roster he started with day one.
That matters.
Go look because he had no say. So I'm just only going to bring up 2 points and I'm going to leave this part alone. But go look at, here's the roster he got, because I went and looked, okay? Go look at the roster that he ended up coaching. Because people will say, oh, that roster the year before did okay, 4 wins, 6 wins, whatever the heck they were. And then, the next year they do 1 win or 0, whatever it was. Go look at the roster. Go look at what changes the GM and those guys made. Then I bring up point two of that, after those 2 seasons where he went 1 and whatever, if it wasn't all created, why'd they give him an extension? Why'd they give him an extension? Why did they go to and say, hey, we know we've put you through the ringer. We got you. You're our guy. Here's an extension. Just think. Now, I get it. Cleveland fans won't be able to look at this really subjectively because you're fans of this team and you're going to say, well, yeah, but look what they did after. Everybody who was part of that, still there. Still there. The upper management guys are still there. Why is he gone? If that was always the plan, it was a 4 or 5 year fix. Why is he gone?
Yeah.
So I'll leave that there.
Just another example, Tone, and to get back on what we talked about with Brian Flores, we're talking about a guy like you just talked about with Bill Belichick mistakenly texting him to tell him that, congratulations on the job. Wait a minute, I haven't even been interviewed yet. So this is the kind of nonsense that I have to put up with. Add that to, he goes to interview with the Broncos, who he tells us that he goes to interview with the Broncos, who he tells us that not only do they show up an hour late, they were allegedly sauced. You guys have no intentions in taking me. You guys do not take me seriously.
They wanted Vic Fangio. They were hiring Vic Fangio. They were checking a box. And this is why. So that's a good transition to the Rooney Rule. This is why the Rooney Rule sucks. Because the Rooney Rule basically states, well, you have to check this box to appease the league.
Right.
Well, that's not. I'm a billionaire owner. I'll check the box. I'm going to hire whoever I want to hire. Right. You haven't made there's no reason why anything would change with the Rooney Rule.
Right.
The other part of the Rooney Rule that I find interesting, and I'm not calling out maybe I am calling out Mike Tomlin. To get more head coaches into the league, you have to have more black offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. In Mike Tomlin's tenure, it's quiz time. How many black offensive or defensive coordinators has it had?
Let's see. He had Joey Porter.
Was he a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator?
He was a defense. He worked with the linebackers. Oh, you mean a DC? Okay, you mean
DC, OC. Just the two highest positions.
Okay, you mean a DC and an OC? Oh, none.
None is the correct answer. Zero. So now I get it. He's a black coach like everybody else. He's got to do what he's got to do to keep his job. However, and be successful. I get it. That's why I'm saying I'm not picking on him. However,
these are the facts.
He's had zero in a place where they invented the Rooney Rule. It's named after their owner.
Yeah, he's the one who started it.
and they even had one. Meanwhile, Bruce Arians, who I don't, Bruce Arians. Sometimes I like Bruce Arians. Sometimes I think I don't like Bruce Arians. But he's had way more impact on black head coaches than Mike Tomlin. Yeah. Right? Because just look, Todd Bowles, he may or may not get a head coaching job. Byron Leftwich may or may not get a head, but he's got these coordinators. He's showing how good they are, how smart they are, how capable they are. Better check. No,
there's a part of me when I see Bruce Arians that I with the hat and with the glasses. I think he might be one of us on the low. I just think I'm not 100% sure, but when I see the hat and I see the glasses, there's a part of me that thinks Bruce Arians might be one of us. I'm just gonna put that out there.
It might be that there was this horrible thing back, the one drop rule. When he might have that one drop.
I'm just saying it might be somebody back in his lineage that was sneaking in the slave quarters, and I don't know, man. It might be something.
Let's not be. This is gonna piss off a lot of people. I don't give a crap. Listen, we all descended from Africa. Let's be honest. Come on, it's not a question anymore. You believe in science, unless you don't believe in science. And listen, I'm Greek. Trust me, Greek. You may or may not. You're a history buff, so you probably know this. The inner workings of a pyramid. Do you know what they resemble? That's famous in Greece.
I don't.
The Acropolis. All the pillars. You've seen that. Yes. The Acropolis. Well, that's the inside of it. That's just the inside of a pyramid. So if you don't think, and I know this, Egyptians were coming over to help collaborate. And where did the Egyptians? They're North Africa. You don't think they kind of
Yeah.
came up from South Africa, not the country South Africa, it's like the southern part of Africa. So if you don't think all that stuff was coming up and all that stuff wasn't going down, you're crazy. Like you just don't want to see the truth. So that's maybe a conversation for another day. So let's just recap. So Brian DeBoll gets fired.
Who is Brian DeBoll, Tone?
Not Brian DeBoll, excuse me. Brian Flores. See, I did the same thing. I did the same thing that Bill Belichick just did.
Since we on that subject, who is Brian DeBoll, Tone? Do you have any idea who this guy is? Because I have none. Maybe you can educate me on who Brian DeBoll is.
He's the head coach of the New York Giants.
I do know that part. I'm not in the dark about that. But what else do we know about this guy?
Bills. What was he? The Bills defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator? Offensive coordinator for the Bills.
He was the OC in Buffalo.
OC in Buffalo. Mm-hmm. Did a good job with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, and had a pretty good.
So that's where they got him from. The offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. This is in New York Giants. This is the same organization within the 96-year history of the New York Giants. How many black quarterbacks have they had? The 96-year history of the New York Giants. How many black head coaches have they had? So I'm just trying to make sense of who I know who DeBoll is now, but
no, I know what you mean. But you know what? You want to have a laugh? So the Giants obviously have had 4 or 5 head coaches in the last 6-7 years, whatever. Like they've been. It's like a turnstile over there.
Yes.
Don't look at the names. Just look at the pictures of all of them. They're the same person.
They all look alike.
They're all the same person. They're all the same person. I said this before they hired DeBoll. I just added him to the list. They're all the same person.
They all look alike.
Yeah. So that's so let me So back to Flores. So Flores lawsuit. It's long overdue. I know that there's rumors. I can't confirm or deny that I know this. That Hugh Jackson is speaking with the lawyers of Flores to jump on that because he's got evidence as well. I can't confirm or deny that. But I think that's important. I think other head coaches. Look, here's the problem. The only head coaches. So Flores is doing it, and I commend him on it because you're right. He's never going to get a head coaching job again. Hugh Jackson has been blackballed. He's never going to coach in the NFL again. He's at Grambling State, nice, with the HBCU, and so he's got nothing to lose. It's going to take people who either have nothing to lose, like Hugh, or that are willing to lose it all, like Flores, to make a change. It's also going to take, listen, this isn't a black thing. This is not a black thing. I'm going to tell you, I get it. We're talking about black head coach, but it's not a black thing. It is an everybody thing. And so it's going to take, white coaches, white GMs, owners, whatever. It's going to take everybody to come in and change this and fix this. But it starts with these 2 guys, and hopefully they don't just kind of try to sweep them under the rug, because I'm telling you, I've seen proof. I've seen evidence that this stuff has happened. And so I think it's about time it comes to the light. And you know what scares me, and so I'll end it with this. For me, what scares me is it could kill the NFL, and that would suck because I love football, right? So it's like this is where I think the catch-22 comes in, is, hey, we understand that changes need to be made, but at what cost? And that's why I think it's taken so long, because okay, let's change it, and now the NFL goes kaput. Well, I'm even struggling to say it, right? That's the downside of it, right? So you can't let that happen. It needs to be fixed and corrected. But sorry, I did want to mention one thing. So I was mentioning about the coaches. So black coaches have to go through all these things, white coaches don't. There's the stat, again, if you go to the NFL Inclusion and Equality report, they show you it's like 70-80% of head coaches who are black have been players and gone through the set. And then there's it's less than half of the white coaches have been players and gone through all the steps. So I'll give a white coach a chance. She's like, yeah, come on, let's do it. But I won't do the same. So that's an interesting part that, that needs to change. And listen, it goes, black quarterbacks went through it. You can be a black quarterback. You could be a wide receiver. Still going through it. So there's a lot of opportunity to change. And so I hope that we do that. The last thing, because we were talking about the Rooney rule, Chauncey Billups came out and he kind of mentioned your thing that the NBA is light years ahead. They weren't always light years ahead. Let's be clear. There was a time, like if you look at the NBAs, there's been some ebbs and flows with head coaches. But right now, I think you said 14, 12, 13, 14. It's been almost half of the head coaches So I think they are light years ahead. Chauncey Billups came out and kind of said the Rooney Rule's stupid. I think we all agree that it's bad. What I'd like to see now is for whether it's the Rooneys, whether it's the NBA, Adam Silver, whether it's, all these people, including us, who complain about the Rooney Rules being garbage. What's the solution? So I say this to everybody all the time. It's easy to say, here's all the problems. So easy, right? You see guys, the news does it all the time. Well, especially when you're talking political news, the left and the right, right? The left or the right, both of them. The other side is doing all these things wrong. Great. What's the solution?
Right.
Right? It's easy. That's exactly it's easy to say all the problems. I want to hear solutions with it. So I think that's kind of the challenge that is next. Is we know that the Rooney Rule does not work. How do we fix it?
Well, you have to ask the $1 million question, like I just asked you, Tone. Like, what are we going to do about this? Well, I don't think that there's much that we can do about it. Which, when I think about ownership, because like I told you, Tone, for every Rick Pitino, for every Red Auerbach, for every Greg Popovich, there are 10 higher ups there are 10 higher ups that are 10, 20, 30 higher ups. And I know that people hate to hear this, but this is a fact. There are people in the front office, not just in professional sports. There are people in the front offices in corporate America, in every walk of life. I am not hiring a fill in the blank to run our organization. There are people who feel like that to this day. And that's why this thing, we talk about change. I don't think that this Brian Flores situation I don't think it's going to go away. But when we talk about it being astronomical, because look at the same thing with Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling was the epitome of a racist. You just mentioned, Tone, last year in the NBA, we had 5 black head coaches, 5. In a league of 30, we have 5 black head coaches. So this thing constantly goes up and down. And the way that it's going to change, the way that it could change, let me rephrase that. The way that it could change is by not just getting owners, not getting owners together and having a conversation about this, because we've already done that. We got to get new ownership. We have to get different people who are more diplomatic.
No, but you have to find. I think you have to find ways too to get more minority ownership as well.
That's my point. So we got to get different people in here who are more diplomatic and who are more prone to hire people, not to just look like them. No, Tone, to hire the most qualified. Now, let's make sure we clear, Tone. I only represent 6% of the population, right? I represent 6% of the population. However, I am just as qualified, if not more qualified, to do the same job that you do. I reference Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy. When they were in the Super Bowl in 2006, all that did for me was confirm the idea that I can do what you do. Just give me an opportunity. I can do that. I'm not saying that I'm the best. I'm not saying that you got to make a statue of me. What I am saying is, if you give me an opportunity and you give me some time, I can do that too.
The opportunity to succeed or fail. And that's the problem. It's you need to be perfect and succeed, or you have the opportunity to succeed and fail. And that's really the difference with the two. I've always, I'll be honest, this is an idea I stole from my wife and I tweaked it a little bit, but head coaches, why are we interviewing? Well, let me ask you this. Maybe it's a crazy idea, but again, we have to try some different solutions because the renewal doesn't work. Coach, what you have is Coach A. Here's the resume. Maybe we don't even say school. Maybe we say this conference and this record, and maybe they'll know. But this is Coach A. This is Coach B. This is Coach C. This is Coach D.
We don't have names or anything.
You don't have no names. Here's the list of questions. The same. We're going to ask them each the same 5, 10, 30 questions. Here's their answers. We don't get to hear the voice because just be safe. You don't see this color of their skin. And be like, you know what? That's the one whose philosophy, whose game plan suits my team the best. All right, let's bring in. That's the person we want. And that's an option. Now, some people say, well, I want to see, the look in their eye and the smile.
Why?
Why? You know why. Or maybe it's in connection with this. I say, well, why isn't there maybe we do this for CEO jobs, a third-party consulting company who works with the NFL and the team owner to identify and bring in the top candidates that suit their needs. They do all the preliminary stuff because hopefully they're not going to do it based on color. And now here you're going to have the best candidates. And it might be 2 black coaches. It might be 2 white coaches. Right. I don't know. Right. But now it's less about hey, is this a person that I want to go out and drink a beer with? And more about what should matter, which is, can they lead my football team?
Yeah,
Can they make my young men into professional men? Can they
that's
make my
interesting.
team winners, Super Bowl champs, or whatever it is that goal is?
Yeah.
Right? Like if we either create some anonymity to it or add a piece of other people consulting who don't have that kind of, hopefully don't have those kind of preset notions of what my coach, because look, there's still that my coach should be, you know, this white guy in a suit and tie with a hat on because I would love Tom Landry. Yeah, doing one of those. And my quarterback needs to be a 6'5" white guy with a cannon of an arm.
Mm-hmm.
Those two don't necessarily equate winning
No,
all
they
the
don't.
time. They don't. But we'll never know if that's all we continue to do, right?
And just so you know, Tone, just because I like the guy, the 6'5" white guy with the cannon arm, a la Justin Herbert, I feel the same way about Randall Cunningham, right? So I feel the same way about Doug Williams. Just like I look at Dan Marino and I'm googly eyed, I feel the same way about Doug Williams. I feel the same way about Patrick Mahomes. So the fact that he looks like me, I mean, it does help because it gives me inspiration. However, that doesn't always work. Just because he's a white guy, he's got a cannon of an arm. It doesn't work. But to add to your point,
just really, Rich Gannon,
right? Rich Gannon
doesn't mean we're going to win.
Women just look at things differently. I'm convinced that women know everything, and whenever, yeah, I'm convinced of that. So they'll say something and be like, "Damn, I didn't think about it like that."
That's smart, right? All right, let's move. Listen, when I say move, it's not like we're going to stop talking about this. We're going to continue to talk about this. You know, I'm gonna actually play some of the clips from my years with Hugh Jackson, because it's so funny. I look back, I'm like, this was like 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, that he and I were having these conversations every week on camera, and nothing's changed. It's to say, like, no one would know. I'm gonna post the clip. No one will know that it wasn't today. But I am going to have him back on, and we're going to have a sit down. I'm trying to get Brian Flores and him together because I think that would be important. But we're going to get Hugh. Check out his. He was on the Pivot with Brian Clark and Channing and Fred Taylor. It's a great interview, so you should go check out the Pivot and check that out. Let's move to the NBA now. And again, this is not something that's going to go away. We're going to continue to talk about this, but there's some concerning. Maybe concerning news or trends that have been happening as of late. LeBron James struggling with some injuries. KD now over the last few years. Injury. He's injured again. Are we seeing the beginning of the end of KD due to injuries? Or is it just he's still recovering from the major one he had? Like, should we be concerned?
I think so, Tom. Well, to start with James, you know, James has the knee injury right now, and he's got some inflammation in his knee. His knee is swelling up. Earlier this season, he had a back injury.
Didn't he have the abdominal?
Yeah, an abdominal and a back injury. And you know, it's been widely publicized. James spends over $1 million a year on his body. But the thing that we have to accept is, and a lot of people don't want to come to terms with this, James is getting old, Tom. James is getting old, and we've seen him play at such a high level for such a long time that we expect this to just continue. And we haven't really seen a decline. We haven't seen him slow down. And these injuries are an indication that, you know, James isn't going to play forever. At some point, it's going to happen. Well, I see the same thing going on with KD. A lot of people look at KD's situation with them, Jay. He only 33 years old. KD got 15 years in the league. He's got a lot of miles on him. And not only does he have a lot of miles on him, Tone, taller guys, we're talking about a 6'10" guy who's thin and lanky. Now, with that being said, he's more prone to break down as he's getting older. So we had the Achilles injury in 19, right? He missed the whole 19-20 season. The 2021 season, he has the hamstring issue. He's out half the season. And then this year, he's got a sprained MCL. When I see these things, I start to think about the man behind you, Brian. Brian tore up his Achilles. After he tore his Achilles up, he recovered from that. Then he cracked his knee. After he cracks his knee, then his shoulder goes out. Then that's the Achilles was the beginning of the end for Bryant. That's when he started to break down, and we started to see him start to slow down. I kind of see the same thing going on with KD, and that's why that's why I'm glad you asked that question, because it's really interesting. It kind of seems like this looks like the beginning of the end for him. How many more years does KD have? Not just at this level, Tone, because let me make sure we're clear, Tone. At this, I think KD's skill set has not diminished. Absolutely not. But I look at him in terms of his body and his body type. It seems like this might be the beginning of the end of him starting to break down.
The other thing that people seem to forget is you don't get young. People have this misconception that if you don't play, like if you take a year off, I've hear this all the time. Oh, you got fresh legs. No, it's actually the reverse. Sitting hurts you because there's something you can't stop when you're sitting, and that's age, right? So you're still aging, right? Yeah. Your legs, when you're not using them, don't become stronger and fresher. They become weaker, right? Just think about this. I don't know if anyone's broken an arm or broken a leg. If you're laying in a hospital bed for 2 weeks, right? What happens? You have like this really little arm, this little leg, and you have to rebuild. Now there is muscle memory and it's easier and it's quicker and blah, 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 all that stuff. But you still have to kind of train yourself and rebuild up that muscle because it's gone. And so I look at, any sport. I look at Le'Veon Bell sitting for a year, never was the same again.
That didn't help him.
KD, the fact that KD came back from that Achilles and was as good, if not better, that's a testament to his skill, but his body's going to start to break down. People always bring up Jordan. They're like, well, he retired for a year and a half. Well, he played baseball, but it's different muscles that you're using. And then he retired again for 3 years and he came back at 38, 39 years old. Guess what? Oh, and then he got hurt. I'm not surprised he got hurt. Your body ages, and there's one person who's undefeated. That's Father Time. No one beats him. Even LeBron. Like, we look at LeBron, it's interesting. We look at LeBron. We look at Tom Brady. I used to say I look at Nolan Ryan, right? And we want to make them the norm. Well, look at these players who've played into their late 30s, into their 40s, and they're still – that's the exception. There's a reason – right? There's a reason only one person did it. That's not the norm. People are not going to play at this level of LeBron James. Now, we have to give credit to LeBron James for being able to do that. Some of that is that $1 million he spends. Some of that is genetics. He's just that's him. That's people. That's not the norm. We're not going to be now we are playing longer. There's more people are taking care of their bodies and they're playing long, but it doesn't guarantee, Christian McCaffrey takes great care of his body. Look at him. He looks like a Greek sculpture, but he's always hurt, right? He's always hurt. So it doesn't necessarily equate to longevity. So just keep that in mind. And I think, that's why I give credit. I always say this, I give credit to some of the, people always say I'm an old head, but I give credit to some of these older guys who were like drinking and smoking and partying and still being able to perform. I keep telling people that's impressive.
That is impressive. So when I look at guys like Jabbar, like you just said, to piggyback off what you just said, Tone, in terms of longevity, Jabbar in year 19, that was 1988. He was averaging 14 a game. In year 20, which was 1989, Jabbar was 10-6. He was 42 years old, right? Now, 42 is not old in society, but in the NBA, you are ancient, okay? Yes. You're a dinosaur at 42 years old. There's no way.
42 in the NBA is just as bad as 40 plus on TikTok.
But here's the thing, Tom. We knew, so we're not that bad as opposed to a guy who we haven't been on TikTok.
I've been doing it for 20 years.
Right, we haven't been on TikTok for 20 years, so we don't have that many miles on us. We just got started, So when you look at a guy like James, there's a reason why guys like him come around every Haley's comment, because they're rare. They are the exception. These are guys who I'm not going to say that there won't be another Jordan, there won't be another James. I just don't think I'm going to be allowed to see it. That's all, because we got guys like this who do these certain things with their body, the kind of athletes that they are, where it's just not normal. Tom Brady is 44 years old. Tom, can you imagine at 44 years old getting up and going to football practice every day?
I have a hard time coming in here to just record this over my back.
You're right.
My knee.
Going to football practice every day, right? And playing at it, and not just playing. Like Tom wasn't just showing up. I mean, he could very well be the league MVP this year.
Yeah.
Led the league.
He's in the conversation. He's either one or two, right?
Right. So we got guys like that are exceptions. I don't think that anybody isn't. I don't think you guys are vain enough to believe that you're going to see guys playing into their 40s regularly and being effective. There's no way you really believe that, because that's not going to happen.
No, it's not. And it's kind of the thing that drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. It's, someone does something once, or someone does something for a short period of time, and we want to change the narrative, right? It's like, no, hold on. Matthew Stafford. Yeah, he had a really good season. He's having a great playoffs, but he had 12 where he wasn't. So what's the truth? Right. One good season. Ryan Tannehill. Oh, he was trash in Miami. Had a good season in Tennessee. Oh, now he's a good quarterback. Oh, no, he's not. Now we realize, oh, no, he's not. Baker Mayfield has a good season. Oh, we're going to just skyrocket. No, you can't, just because someone did something once or a couple of times. Jeremy Lin. Is Jeremy Lin the greatest NBA player of all time? Well, for a week, you probably thought he might have been, right? Or however long Lin's sanity, So that's why I always say, you got to look at this and kind of understand. Do you know the likelihood of becoming an NBA player? The odds when you do math. I know I'm a little over analytical with something. The odds of making it to the NBA. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning twice.
Not once.
Twice. Your odds are better to be struck by lightning twice than making the NBA. So to think that we could then find that next Michael Jordan or LeBron James, who also has the physical gifts and the mental makeup, we forget that part, right? The mental, because anybody has skill. I always say this, Vince Carter had all the skill in the world. Mm-hmm. Who's a better player, Vince Carter or Dwayne Wade?
Right.
Everybody's going to say Dwayne Wade, everybody, but Vince Carter was way more skilled, way more, light years ahead of him.
And more athletic too.
Oh yeah, when I say skill and athletic, everything. But who's the better player? So it doesn't. That's why I always say the skill, the athleticism is great to have, but I can't judge someone based on their skill. I can't say Kyrie Irving's a top 10 point guard just because he's a top 10 all-time skilled point guard, because skill's only a piece of it. Yeah. So the likelihood that you're going to find that person who's athletically gifted, can develop the skills, has the mental makeup to be that next and use those abilities to do this, man, everything just has to fall perfectly into place. So that's why guys like Nolan Ryan, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, the Tom Brady, you're not going to see this all the time, because it's so rare that you find that person, and all those things, the things that have to go right. Mm-hmm. Jordan, I remember Jordan I want to say it was his first game, went up for a dunk and got undercut and he fell and took a long time to get up. If his body is 1 inch different, he breaks his something else and he never plays again. That's how small, Al Pacino, I forget his character's name in Any Given Sunday. It's a game of inches. Yes, you got to give an inch. You got to get an inch. That whole thing. That's life, man. It's an inch by inch. So
yeah. Absolutely, Cole. No doubt about it. Well, to add to what you just got finished saying really quick, have we seen anybody in baseball, and I'm a baseball fan, I haven't seen anybody pitch to be 45 years old like Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan quit. He was 45 years old.
And he was pitching complete games.
He was pitching.
He didn't have a long reliever, short reliever, middle reliever, setup guy, closer.
He was going 9 innings. He was going 8-9 innings. He was pitching like that at 45 years old. Tom Brady, 44 years old.
And still 99, miles an hour.
Yes. James is 37 years old. Guys like that, the idea that these guys, that people think that this is going to be something that's normal. Please don't believe that, because that's not true.
It's the exception to the rule. Absolutely. So let's understand and let's appreciate that, right? Let's enjoy. I know right now we're watching the tail end of LeBron's career, and he's not, although he's still playing really, really well.
Averaging 29 a game.
He's not nuts. The same. He's not the same athletic player that he was, but he still should be marveled and loved, to watch. Same with Brady this year. I always said it, man. Everyone's like, oh, he's not as good as he used to be. No. He's still fun to watch, man. And to think that he's 44, that's impressive. So yeah, I say enjoy those guys because they won't come around very often.
Yeah.
Baseball, like Nolan Ryan, like Otani. If you even have a little bit of interest in baseball, to go watch Otani pitch and then go hit the way that he does, like that is.
Yeah, it's crazy, Tone, because I had gotten a question. Somebody asked me, if I'm in your country, what is some of the things that I should do? And I said, go see the Grand Canyon, go see Mount Rushmore, go to Los Angeles and go watch Otani.
Yeah.
Go to Los Angeles and go watch Otani pitch and hit. I did say that.
Yeah, it's fun, man. So on next week, here's a schedule, the lineup for next week. Little bits and pieces. There's gonna be more, but I'm giving you a highlight of each episode. So Monday, as you know, 8 p.m. on TikTok Live, we're gonna answer your questions. Wednesday on Fluent and Chill, our conspiracy, because it was sent to me, and I'm like, someone actually put it in our comments. So we're gonna flat Earth. We're gonna dive in or dive off the edge of the Earth. My kid always plays me this episode of Teen Titans where they talk about the Earth being flat, and they're like, they got like butter walls that keep the water in. So we might talk about butter walls if you're a fan of Teen Titans. And then on Friday's episode of Fluent and Chill, come on, it's the Super Bowl edition. We're going to tell you why the Bengals are going to. No, we're going to tell you. We're going to make our picks. I don't want to give it away. We're going to make our picks. We're going to tell you what we expect to see, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about the halftime show, because I haven't been excited for a halftime show in a while. I want to say the last time I really was excited was like, I don't know, Justin and Janet, and he did her dirty. That was but this one, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Snoop. Mary J. I love Mary J. Mary J. And Kendrick Lamar. Yeah, I always say add Kendrick Lamar like it's an add-on, right? One of the greatest of all time.
By the way, he'll be there too.
He'll be there too. Yeah. So that's going to be next week. What's coming up on Fluent and Chill. But until then,
take it light, but take it.